really excited to introduce you to Boyd Wilson at Omnibond. I've known Boyd for a number of years. We met when he was back at Clemson, and we began talking about the Innoventure Futures Festival a few months ago. We had a planning meeting in April, and Boyd was one of the first people to reach out to me and say, this is something we really need to do. Stepped up and became a sponsor, and I'm greatly appreciative. And so he's been a real champion of what we've been doing for quite a while now. And so I'm really looking forward to, taking the next few minutes here and chatting with him, let y'all understand a little bit more about Omnibond and what they do. We'll go for 20 minutes or so. So Boyd, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Been looking forward to it.
So tell us a little bit about what Omnibond does.
Omnibond, just go through a little bit of history, started out in the identity management business back with a small little company called Novell. And we actually started, out as a kind of back-end engineering firm for their identity management software. And then we slowly got into other areas such as computer vision and AI for the transportation industry with TrafficVision. We take existing cameras, turn them into sensors. We're used in about 24 different states with tollways or DOTs. And then we got into high performance computing, research computing space with Cloudy Cluster and Orange FS. And then are actually ramping up a kind of a rewrite of Cloudy Cluster, which we're calling a data science platform, where you can really integrate multi-cloud on-prem research computing software and make it very easy to use for end users. So we're kind of across the gamut there, but there are some ties and we do have overlaps in the teams.
I always ask entrepreneurs this. So you woke up one morning and decided that you were going to start Omnibond. So what was it that caused you to say, hey, that's a great idea, we ought to start a company?
So it really started out with authentication, where people had lots of different passwords at lots of different places. And it really was, its goal was to tie these passwords together, and eventually led to, the work with Novell, then Micro Focus, and now actually OpenText has acquired those companies, where you figure out how to take all these different Linux, Unix, mainframe, mid-range platforms, and you just provided the authentication redirection. And that's kind of when we loop back and you think about passwordless, it kind of loops back to our origins. And now we kind of organize passwords, and now we want to do away with passwords.
So tell us a little bit about passwordless.
So we were doing some work with self-sovereign identity, and the development team was working on it. And then last year at the Worldwide Developers Conference at Apple, they actually announced they were going to support passwordless with something called passkeys, which allow you to essentially use your biometrics on your phone and your computer or a PIN to keep track of cryptographic keys that then you exchange with sites and do authentication with them. And it essentially keeps track, generates, and does everything using cryptography instead of just passwords. And what we've built is a platform that a lot of universities can use and government agencies to leverage Shibboleth to use passwordless. So you can essentially get rid of passwords on all your different iOS to Android phones. So it's going to be a quantum leap in security because it's much easier to use, and it also, it is multi-factor.
IDs and passwords just as nuts. I mean, everybody wants you to have a complex password, and I don't know about anybody else. I'm just a mere mortal. I can't keep up with it all. And then they want you to change every so often. I think many of us find passwords and IDs difficult to manage because you just can't keep up with as many multiple complex passwords as everybody would like you to have. I know for me, logging in with biometrics is a real game changer, much easier to do, and seems more secure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And once you get past the point where the biometrics is encoding keys, staying locally, then you don't have the problems of having to remember passwords. Computers can remember stuff really well, and hackers, little script kiddies can remember passwords and try different things. So this is much more designed, much better designed for humans.
For me, it also drives me to log into things with my phone so I can use my finger as opposed to on my laptop where I have to somehow use the password. Tell us a little bit about what you would hope to get out of a regional innovation ecosystem. I know you, as I said, you were one of the first people to step up and say, hey, this is really important and this is something we need to do. And not only that, put a little money behind it, which I greatly appreciate. So what is it that you hope to get out of this?
I mean, there's two parts. One part is with our various different software products. We've always had a national or even international focus, and just because they're very horizontal software platforms. And as we're getting into a lot of research and engineering enablement software in our research computing space and in a project we call Project Eureka, it naturally fit there. But then there's also just supporting the area where I live and love and, raised our kids and everything. So there's kind of two parts there, and just really working on the region and just really trying to make a difference.
So we have a lot of larger organizations involved in the Innoventure Futures Festival and the Carolina Crescent Coalition. We have some universities, we have some major corporations, we have some logistics companies. So what is it you'd like to be top of mind with them about Omnibond?
Probably the biggest thing to be top of mind is to think about, security. We were talking about passwords and identity, and also, research computing and innovation. How can you enable your engineers, your scientists, from computational to economists? How can you reduce the time for them to use technology? Things like high performance computing, AI, and really, focus on their productivity. And that's where we're really trying to make a difference.
And that's going to get to be a bigger issue for all large organizations, isn't it? I mean, really the competitive advantage going forward is going to be the ability to manage and then analyze data. Artificial intelligence, machine learning is really data driven.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you look at our, TrafficVision software and where we're headed with that, where we have millions of hours of traffic video that, we collected with a project with Google several years ago and with our other partners, building out that, annotating it, and really building out that infrastructure. How can you make that fast and efficient? And, we're starting to do, cool things with automatically generating training data and things like that. So, how can we build tools to make that easy for people to really accelerate this?
One thing that we've heard, from a number of the organizations that are participating with us, it's one thing when you're talking about training on data inside the organization, maybe how robots are working on a plant floor. But it's something else when you start talking about being able to collect data across organizations. So you really have a very large, big data application. We had one company that was talking about, wanting to optimize schedules for their employees, whether they worked, 4 10-hour days or 5 8-hour days or, some combination to be able to manage around personal events, the children's soccer games and stuff like that. And, balancing, the needs of the business with the personal needs be one thing for an algorithm to do that for one company, but be something much different if it became so robust because it was, collecting data from across a large number of companies and became even better at than optimizing, schedules like that. So you see applications across organizations like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what, people have kind of, the practical things people have learned with the large language models and then the enablement of things behind it, the generative AI trend is, you can do some really impressive things with large amounts of data. And it's opened up whole new legal realms of, not only can you use my data for training, but, how do people that have data monetize that? But there's a large number of areas that will be touched by this, and I think it's, just our imagination is pretty impressive. Now there's a lot of work to get it to scale and be very accurate, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we're just at the infancy of this. I mean, we're saying that, there are a lot of issues, a lot of problems, and there are, but, imagine 10, 20 years from now, if these large language models continue to evolve at the pace they're evolving now, they're really going to be amazing, and maybe in ways a little bit scary. I know, some people are worried about when AI starts to think like humans, and I think maybe a bigger question is they actually start to think differently. They can solve problems in ways, people can't, and that's because they do consume massive amounts of data and actually train themselves, maybe even from first principles, in ways humans haven't. And it's a challenge, and it's also the opportunity that we have.
There's kind of two parts to that. One of the more recent things that's very interesting is you can take a large language model and then how you tune it or how you use it with just a small amount of local data. You can do some very interesting things. You can take like a Chat GPT and use the APIs and then upload some PDFs and things that you have, and then you can start asking questions specifically about the PDFs or other documents locally, and very quickly you can build an app that's helping you digest large volumes of content like annual reports and crazy things like that, and just go ask it questions without having to scan through the whole document. And again, like you said, we're right at the infancy, and then as we expand on that, it's going to be pretty impressive.
Yeah, and then identification and validation and secure cybersecurity all becomes critically important too, because I was at a conference at Clemson today, and they were talking about using quantum computers to manage fleets of trucks on the interstate. That's really cool until you start to think about cyber terrorists, breaking into those systems, and all of a sudden big tractor trailers going careening all over the place on the interstate. So keeping that safe is critically important.
Obviously, we're in one of the areas with that, with at least roadway monitoring. But cybersecurity is huge, and we're not protecting against humans anymore. I mean, these same language models that can be used, for our benefit, can also be used to hack us, attack us, to try different things. I mean, you could build a large language model of all the vulnerabilities and exploits out there, and then you can try things, dependencies, and you can build what we used to call script kiddies for security, and you can build a very smart one. So there are some very scary things out there, and that's why you have to use these same technologies to counteract that, because the people that want your data are going to try to come get it, and you have to try to protect that.
So tell us a little bit more about the traffic applications you have. I know, there's a lot of mobility companies, a lot of mobility organizations around, and, I think they'd be very interested in the kind of traffic applications y'all have.
Yeah, sure. We really started out looking at the transportation industry from the safety perspective. So you have departments of transportations, tollways, tunnel operators, those types of organizations. And we wanted to take this existing camera network they had and really turn them into smart sensors. And so we built algorithms, and now we're using a lot more AI with that to create the ability to monitor traffic. You can do your speeds, your counts, your classification, just to know the flow of traffic so you can understand things across your interstates. And then we also added the capability to detect incidents like stopped vehicles, debris in the roadway. So you can go out and tell your operators in your traffic management center to, like, here, look at this, there's something for you to look at. You need to dispatch someone. And just in real world tests, we were able to take rural highways and reduce the response time by 15 minutes. If someone's hurt in a car, that's like, that's a huge amount of time. And even in cities, such as Atlanta, we were able to reduce by like 6 or 7 minutes, where everybody has cell phones, up and down, and we were still beating the 911 calls to report those incidents so they could dispatch and get help or clear up the roadway so traffic can flow and those various things. So it's really that concept of taking cameras that are existing out there in the network and just turning them into sensors.
Yeah, I mean, I think the transportation infrastructure across the country is going to become one giant sensor network, isn't it? Again, I was listening today about drones, monitoring traffic, monitoring bridges for safety. The vehicles themselves becoming sensors and that are monitored. So again, a huge big data application, and we're really just on the cutting edge of that, especially when vehicles start to become autonomous, right? And now these systems are managed by big data applications.
Exactly, and you can pull all that data in. We do some interesting work for ports, and we can pull ship data in through the AIS system and compare it with traffic data and incident data, and we also have algorithms that can track the queuing of trucks for drayage lanes, and you can give an operations center a holistic view of what's going on, where everything is, and we're starting to dig in to do more analytics with that, and get some timings and historical stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of things across multiple sensors and devices, and really provide that big data. But until you pull it and provide visualizations and views and real analytics tools that you can do things, and then you can understand and learn, and then you can start putting them into AI models and other things like that. But there's kind of that evolution that you have to take to get there before you're ready to to start building out automation.
What about Omnibond? Should people know that maybe we haven't touched on?
One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is our support. I mean, we're really a high touch organization. We really work with our customers. We know that we're probably the expert in the applications we're trying to sell. We'll obviously help you and train you, but we're always there to really provide support and help people. And it's been to our benefit.
And that's a cultural thing. That's really a testament to leadership. It's really easy to say and hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's real hard. But then, sometimes your parents ingrain something when you're little to help people, and you kind of, sticks with you too.
Yeah, I know. In the companies I've run, really empowering people to look after the customer and think for themselves, and it really takes a proactive, active effort, and it really is a good testament of leadership when folks throughout the organization really stay attuned to customer needs and making customers happy. Well, thanks for taking a few minutes and sharing with us Omnibond's story, and we appreciate your support of Innoventure.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining. Looking forward to this year's program, but also looking to next year when we can really build it out and do some really cool big things, and over time as it grows. So yeah, I'm really interested and excited for the future.
Well, thank you.